So hello and welcome to another episode of NAPO's podcast, Standout, the podcast all about bettering your organizing and productivity business. I'm your host, Productivity Catalyst Claire Kumar, and do we have a treat for you today? I have with me today Dorothy Breininger. You'll know her as Dorothy the Organizer. You've probably seen her on Hoarders, or you've read about her in the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, and O Magazine. She's repeatedly appeared on the Today Show, the Dr. Phil Show, The View, The Doctors, QVC. She's an LA-based organizer. If you haven't heard of her now, you're gonna want to look her up. She's been in business, I think it's 26 years. And
right.
Yeah. So I am so thrilled and want to welcome you today, Dorothy. First of all, thanks so much for joining us.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here. Of course, Claire.
And, I think I was just counting it. I think in February, I will have been 17 years in business. And in Canada, we were a little bit behind the US. We were always looking at the US and thinking, wow, you're really steps ahead in having the market understand the whole concept of organizing. When I came in, we were still educating. What is this concept of having a professional organizer? And I thought, what a treat it is to have you to speak with today so we can get an understanding of what you've seen happen over the years, how you think organizing and productivity has evolved, and maybe even where you think it's going. So I thought maybe we'd start there with maybe, could you give us a little bit of a synopsis of your journey into organizing and productivity, and then we'll dance from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love to dance. Perfect scenario for me. So I'll tell you how it all got started.
Yeah. Well, I just want to point out that for anybody who's listening and not watching us on YouTube at this moment, you missed Dorothy dancing. So if you do want to pop over and check over our YouTube channel, then definitely do that. And you'll get bonus content like the moves. So
perfect. Yes, I'll make sure that we keep the dancing going verbally so everyone can get the gist of it. But, I actually got my start working at universities. Prior to that, I was traveling around the world for a year. And I took a sabbatical from the university, and I said, as I'm traveling, I could see that people were so much happier with less stuff. Why is this?
How old were you when you did that?
I think I was 28.
Okay, so just because I love when there's points of connection, I worked for 3.5 years and took a year off and backpacked around the world too. And I have this fascination with people and their relationship to things. But moreover, maybe you noticed this too, I was happy with the 26-pound backpack on my back. That was my happiest year ever.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The only thing I had on me was a house key tied to my shoe. So there was no mail, no phones, no anything going on except to be present every day. And I lost, 40 pounds while I was away. It was just everything I had been seeking and nothing to do with stuff. You're right. When I came back from that experience and I interviewed people along the way, I realized I wanted to clear out more than half of my house.
Wow.
So for me, it was just a personal and then a business jumping off point. So while I was at the university, people started asking me, well, how is it that you got to go on that trip? What is it? Had you travel around the world? How can I do that? And I always say it's because you want to get organized. Whatever you want to do, organize.
That's so funny. To plan for my trip, you laugh. I carried a binder around for 5 months planning the trip, and I had it down to like 3-day intervals. It all went kind of out the window, but I would go up to people and I'd say, who do you know that wants me to stay with them?
How daring, how wonderful.
It ended up being amazing. So Singapore, Bangkok, anyway, but there was such an element of organization to the travel. So I love the connection you make to the travel and then to your progression into the organizing business. So coming back to you and your evolution into this career.
Yeah, so it evolved from there. I came back to the university. I'm working. It's actually at UCLA, and I'm considered very organized on the job. I was an executive assistant to the dean of public health, and everyone said, "Wow, your desk is so organized." Oh, I can come and help you. So it started with helping. I started giving seminars to all the other staff around the university, then to the faculty, and suddenly I was doing guest appearances all over the university system. And so I finally went to my boss and said, I think I want to turn this into a business. And after a while, I gave my notice, I trained my replacement, and then UCLA became my first client.
That's a beautiful story. And it really reflects your innate talent and interest and stepping into that. So kudos for that journey. Did it feel brave? Did it feel brave to do that? Or had you?
Of course. Yes, I felt brave every step of the way because it was coming out of my own little mind, that I wanted to do this. I didn't know 26 years ago, although there was organizing going on and NAPO was there. It took me a minute to find it. And when I did, boy, I was rocking.
Oh, amazing. So, okay. So from that point, you start your own business. You say NAPO was there. What was going on at this time in the US around organizing? How was organizing there? And how did you come to connect with NAPO? And how did that connection happen?
I think the organizing came in just little classes, through, at that time it was called the Learning Annex, night classes, and you could take adult education classes, and there might be an organizing course there. So that's about all, except that I was lucky enough to be in Los Angeles where, the founders of NAPO are, right? So I got to know them and became the president of NAPO LA, and then went on to work at the board level, at the national board level for a couple of terms. And, leadership was what it was all about for me. I loved everything about being in NAPO. Still do. Yeah. Love NAPO.
I love it. I've been just in the interviews as I've been meeting and more NAPO members. The connection that I love hearing about most is the connection to NAPO and how volunteering for the organization has been not only a way to embed in the organization and connect with others, it's been so richly rewarding as well. So I think I'm hearing you echo that.
Absolutely. I used to teach a lot of the volunteer leadership courses, and I just don't see it as a have to. The whole point, Claire, is the volunteering allows me anyway, to be very creative. When you volunteer, you get to bring your creation to life. And so if you can use that as the access, here you are.
Yeah, 100%. I feel really privileged to be invited into conversation and to seek out conversation with inspiring people such as yourself and to make that connection and be part of the organization. So I found NAPO in 2010 after finding POC in Canada, professional organizers in Canada, back in 2005. So it took me a while. And then I realized, wow, there's a wealth of knowledge and expertise. So being part of the community has been really rich for me. Let's go back to that time when you were starting your business. And at what point did you discover NAPO? Was it long after, or what was happening for you as you built the business and then it emerged more?
Yeah, once I realized I had this organizing gene or interest, I looked everything up and I got involved immediately. So I went straight to the chapter. And not only did I go straight to the chapter, but I went to the chapter and I said, I'm new. This is my first night. What can I do for you?
Right? Oh, yeah, right. What a spirit. Yeah.
So if you want to be known and get involved in a deeper level with NAPO, all you have to do is say, what can I do for you? And you will be answered.
Well, I do have to say that there is so much that NAPO accomplishes. And it really is because of the volunteers that are involved. It wouldn't happen without all of that energy. There's a lot of leadership and stewardship, and we have our association management, and all of us come together. But without the volunteers, boy, it would be such a fraction of what we could do. So yeah, so I love that. I love that. So tell me how your business evolved then, because how do you go from there to one day being on numerous hoarding shows and on all of these TV shows? Tell me about how your business expanded. What was the journey?
I think the journey happened when the biggest journey happened. You know, I had done all this volunteering at NAPO. I was known as someone who would just take on the strangest things. I loved organizing the volunteer events. So there was that, and I got a call from NAPO. And they said, Dorothy, we have someone who is going to jail because they are hoarding. And would you be willing to call Los Angeles County and help them out and see what you can do? Of course. So I call LA County. What do you need? I understand you've got someone who hoards. I didn't know about it then. And, you know, what is it that I can help you with? And I said, can you work with this man? He's going to jail. He's 76 years old. He has 5,000 bikes and bike parts inside his house. So he's sleeping on the outside of his house in one of the most dangerous parts of Los Angeles. And I said, absolutely. And then they said, we can't pay you. Yeah. So I just said, you know what? No problem. I've never done this thing hoarding. You know, this is 2003, maybe. Absolutely, I'll do it. I spent a year of my own time, my own money.
Wow.
I recruited people, volunteers. I worked with judges. I went to court with this person. I worked on developing the LA County Hoarding Task Force. And all of this was just so, and it's not where I was going. I thought I was going to be doing corporate work. And it became hoarding. So I just accepted the opportunity that came and wound up on the NBC Today show, the front page of the LA Times, you know, all these magazines. And boom, I get an offer to be on the Hoarders TV show on A&E.
I love that story. And it again emphasizes why volunteering can lead to amazing things without it even being the intention. What I noticed and what you said was curiosity. You didn't know anything about hoarding or if you could help that person, but that spirit of curiosity and also compassion to step into an opportunity and generosity to step into that which was going to demand a lot of you and to not know where it was going to go. That's really speaks to who you are.
Well, thank you, Claire. You know, I think the other piece for me is being naive has been a benefit to me on the one hand. You know, on the one hand, that's been a great thing. On the other hand, you know, I've always been a lone ranger, and this is where I always want to make an apology to my NAPO friends because I didn't know how to be a good partner. I didn't know how to share. I didn't know how to credit others. Really, until about 6 years ago, did I learn the lesson. So that's been a hard one for me to sort of clean up the stuff that I didn't do correctly.
That's a really profound thing to say. And as I listen to you, it prompts things that I'm reflecting on in so many ways. But one of them is I did not reach out to people and say, let me learn from you. I figured I needed to do everything and figure it out on my own. That is an exhausting road. So
it sure is, Claire.
Right. So I don't know if that felt to me like there might be a little parallel there. And then I realized, oh my gosh, if you can park the scarcity kind of feeling, what I'm liking seeing in NAPO now is this coming together on a community basis. In NAPO and outside of NAPO, NAPO is one organization of Atlanta-based organizers coming together to serve their community. And I think there's such opportunity if we can have that spirit you're talking about and step into that early of the connection and collaboration that we make. So where do you think that came from? Where do you think that came from?
Believe me, I've studied it. You know, like how could I be kind of so self-centric about things? I remember a time, no blame here, Mom, but I was a gymnast, really good at gymnastics. And at one time, I'm 14, 15 years old, And I won a lot of the events, and I went with one of the opposing gymnasts over there. And we just practiced doing some of these new moves we'd seen in the Olympics.
Yeah.
And my mom called me over and she says, you never share that kind of information. You keep that to yourself. That's the only way you're going to get ahead. So it's not a blame. You know, she comes from the war in Germany. You know, you had to stay close, keep it all close to the vest.
Yeah.
So, but that's how I operated until I learned, oh no, partnership is a much better idea.
I love that. I mean, yeah, we're all informed by our culture, by the voices that come to us. And one of the big opportunities is to check that bias. I'm holding something true. Is it reasonable that that's still true now? And so I love that discovery. So what would you say you're noticing now if we come to, 2022? And boy, we've been through some interesting challenges in the past couple of years. We've seen an evolution. I mean, virtual organizing has become a real thing now. What else are you noticing in the industry now that surprises you or delights you or frustrates you?
Well, I'm seeing a lot, and it's mostly based on COVID, that whole shift. But, Fortune magazine just quoted that 4.5 million people have literally walked off their jobs as of November 2021. So that means, well, what are they doing? And that, it's kind of called the Great Resignation. Mm-hmm. And it's now actually being renamed to the Great Reshuffling, because they're walking off those jobs, and people are recreating their careers now. Mm-hmm. Well, what do they want to do? Mm-hmm. Aha! Guess what? It fits right here into our world of organizing, which, so many people, at least from my perspective, have years worth of experience, because a lot of these people who are resigning are mid-career. Mm-hmm. Okay, so they have this wealth of experience, and I'm seeing the organizing industry grow because of this. Mm-hmm. I am training others to become organizers because of this. When you have a certain skill set, whether it's real estate or even, whatever that skill set might be, it can be living under the umbrella or the rubric of organizing. Mm-hmm. So that's the biggest change that I'm seeing. And because everyone is working from home, for those who haven't walked off their jobs, right, they too need our organizing expertise. So organizing is the hot job. I think in 2020, it was one of the top 10 jobs by Business Insider magazine.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's exciting. I do sense the opportunity as a productivity coach right now. I think the opportunity to step into the burnout proofing arena is really where I see a big opportunity. There are headlines every day around the levels of burnout, especially in leadership. And so, yeah, there's so many. What I love that I noticed over the past few years is this expansion into real depth in different areas. I mean, the scope of organizing and productivity is so vast. There's room for so many different kinds of expressions of that skill and expertise to add value in so many different ways.
Yeah, and that's, I think we're saying the same thing here, because people are having this experience, like I have all, like they watch things on TV, they watch other people doing things. I can do that. I do that. I could do that better. Mm-hmm. And so that if I have a set of skills, then I want to use those skills. And so that's why the careers are, all these different columns, all these different experiences are happening, because people can go in depth, as you're saying.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that what I've noticed in the past couple of years is this reconnection to a richness of life. And my experience in the corporate world meant that was hard to come by sometimes. It was an overwork and a real hustle culture going on. And a lot of people have said, I want some autonomy. This is why I went full time into business for myself. I needed to call the shots on how I sculpted my life and where my fulfillment was going to come from. And I think that's the huge opportunity now. People are like, I kind of like this work from home thing. I like managing my time and figuring out how I can contribute. And I think that's has a lot to play in this too.
Yeah, I was able to, I love the term sculpt. That's beautiful. I love travel. And,
Mm.
even though we're married 7 years, Marty and I still feel like newlyweds and we love to travel. And, last year we did a trip to Belize and it was on a little puddle jumper and I had a camera guy there and we were able to do a bunch of filming in Belize and I did all of my coaching from Belize because I do a lot of business coaching and things like that, not hoarding, believe it or not. And here I am doing my work, from different countries around the world. I love to say that about myself and I love to do it.
Yeah.
And that's what organizing can offer so many people.
Yeah, it really lets you design your life the way you want to. And so that is very, very exciting. What challenges do you think face the industry in your estimation, as you've seen things evolve? I mean, there's a big sense of there's so much material and information and content out there now that is really rich. There's a lot more DIY, for example. So what do you think is changing that may be challenging for us?
Well, challenging in the industry if you let it be challenging. Okay.
I was expecting you to say that. I knew you'd put a positive spin on it. So what are you thinking?
So, now it comes to me like people will say, well, Dorothy, can you come and organize, let's say an office? And so I'm great with paper. I can do it like that. I can do it digitally, no problem. Right. And then they want to do a very particular software program that I don't know. So that could be, and there are so many apps that we know and don't know. Yes. And, when someone hears it on the radio or sees it on, a YouTube channel, they want to try that app and I haven't heard of it yet. Yeah. So is that going to be a negative? No, it's going to be great. Let me find a way to have this happen for you. I'm going to connect you with so-and-so. Like, remember how I said that I was afraid to share and partner in the past? Gone. Right. So now I can call on the experts that are there because you mentioned it earlier. People are going in depth and learning very specific things. So I can just hand it off. Yes, I can do photo organizing, but would I rather turn to, Kathy Nelson or somebody like that who does, photography and all of that? Yes, send it over to her then. Yeah.
Yeah. And you get to be appreciated for being that conduit to talent.
Yes.
Yeah. And we can do, I think it's important to say we can have healthy referral programs going on in our business as well. The way real estate does, there's no reason we can't have the same kind of thing and build those networks to really look after each other and make sure that the flow, is reasonable. If you're sending a lot of people business, then it's reasonable to look to those kinds of arrangements as well.
Absolutely. That's so key. I think so anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. So from a media perspective and the way organizing is being treated in the media now, there's been an evolution there as well. Hoarders aside, maybe a little bit, that's kind of a specific topic to look at. But what do you think is happening in terms of North America and the world's consciousness? When we look at Marie Kondo and her Spark Joy initiative, and if we look at the home edit and the curation, if we look at Cass Arson's Clutterbug and what she's doing on HGTV, Hot Mess House, I think is the name. So there's different angles of it. What's your sense on how, as a culture, we're looking at this topic of organization?
As a culture, I think people are looking and saying, I either can do it or I can't. Like there's a real honesty for people in the world to say I can or can't. And it's not just the United States. This is global, Claire, because as I travel, this is the same conversation. And so when I think about this, whether I can or can't, that's where we come in as the professional organizers. Actually, I want to ask you to just say the question to me again so I can be really clear about it.
I'm wondering how our culture is perceiving
Yes, perception. So I gave you their being, but their perception is they either say I have an organizer or I don't. It's just in regular conversation. When I speak to someone now and they say, what do you do? And I say, I'm a professional organizer. They say to me, oh yeah, I have one, or, oh, I need one. It isn't to explain it anymore. It's understood.
And where does shame fit in? Because my experience over I've stopped going into people's homes in the last few years, but the whole time I would say I would feel that there were some people that were really proud, and there were other people that were like, if you have a sign on your car, do not park in my driveway. Right?
Right.
There was a lot of shame. And where are we in that discussion? Have we reached I have a high-end designer, I have an organizer. Are we there yet?
Well, I think what's happening, organizer went from being a luxury to being a necessity. The more we experienced hardships in our world, whether it was 9/11 or this pandemic or anything prior to that, people turned to professional organizers. Some organizers might say, oh, there was a drop off in my business. Others might say people came to me because I was needed. They were so full of fear that they needed to get control of their lives that they came to me as a professional organizer. So that's what's happening. Right now, we're in a culture that's been driven by fear over the last 2 going on 3 years. And I think that professional organizers just innately have this personality that says, I'm in charge. I'll let you be in charge, but I'm in charge ultimately to make sure you get what you need done, happen, help, whatever that is for you. So I think we're essential. We're no longer luxury.
That is an important transition, for sure. We become critical to the success of someone's functioning and become more top of mind in the solutions that they're considering. So, along with meal services and cleaning assistance, we now need the strategic thinking to be part of the solution. Yeah, I love that. Where do you think the environmental concerns, ecological concerns, and I'm anticipating, not sure if we're seeing it yet, movement to buying fewer things. How do you think that might influence what we're doing?
Well, it's already happening. We've been talking about 10 years now of the tiny house movement. We've got the minimalists already in place, but the generation now is really, really, truly looking to live on less. If you take a look at Elon Musk, he's living in a tiny home right now.
Is he?
Yeah. Take a look. He's, managing the space program, and he's on site, and he has a tiny house there. And I believe he's got a tiny house movement, or he's affiliated with a builder who does tiny homes. So there's no question. None. And, you can say, well, Elon Musk, I don't know. Or you might say, wow. Either way, when he does a tweet, the world changes. So whether we like it or whether we don't, he already is predicting that we have to go smaller.
Well, if we look at what's happening economically, I know here for sure, we're talking about the next generation is not looking at ownership. I mean, it already happened in other markets. In Japan, renting is the name of the game. So if we look at it's trickling down here. So our expectations of how we live and ownership are all changing. I mean, and even in the economy with this sort of, I don't own all the music I listen to. Now I rent it for a time, and everything. Ownership is in the big picture very fleeting anyway. So it's interesting to examine our relationship to things and what we need to possess. It's funny. My sister she's an artist, and she's done some paintings, and she is in some transition with where she's living and might have had to walk away from the paintings and get a new place. And I was feeling angst over her having to leave these things, but she kindly let me make a calendar with some of the art, and I have it on my desk. And I thought, that's maybe what actually do we really need? There's this conversation of how attached are we to things and what do we really need to really hold on to something important.
Well, I'd like to just say, thanks for having it turned into a calendar because it's beautiful. Tell your sister she's doing great work. But the other thing is, how much do we really need? Marty, husband, and I go through our entire house every single year. Yeah. No kidding, every drawer together, and we completely eliminate. And our top drawer in our kitchen has 4 of the most used items. Second drawer has about 13, and the bottom drawer has maybe once a year, twice a year, electric, 9, something like that. It's going.
Right. Yeah, I love that sound effect. That was awesome. Do you think that's been part of why your presence on TV and in media has been so successful? You are not only knowledgeable and charming and generous, but you've got this performance spirit, I see.
Well, okay, so thank you for that. But here's what when I started in NAPO, I also knew that I wanted to do speaking, right? Mm-hmm. And I wanted, because I was terribly afraid. So I hired a speaking coach, and many of your viewers and listeners would do the same. And that speaking coach, said, okay, let's do a practice run. The first time I met her, and I stood right behind this. I had a 3-piece suit or 2-piece suit on. And I stood behind this little desk, and I spoke directly from my notes, and said exactly what I should. And she said, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh." She said, "Who are you?" I said, "Really? Underneath it all?" She said, "Yeah. Who are you?" I said, "Oh, gymnast, shorts, tennis shoes, outrageous." And she said, "Get out from behind that podium and go be that person." So
wow, what a gift. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Showing up. I've really tapped into this in the past 2-3 years. The more I allow myself to just express who I am, the more magnetic it is. And I'm sure magnets work both ways, right? They attract and they repel. And so I'm sure that's part of it. But when they attract, boy, do they attract.
Yeah. I will say that when I do seminars that I've designed and invited people who want what I have, mm-hmm. they are outrageous. But this personality in an accounting firm,
Maybe. I don't know. I work with accountants, actually. That's the largest group of people I work with. And I don't know. I jive with them for some reason. So you never know. You might be an accountant's, dirty little secret. Who knows? This has been a fascinating conversation. Is there any point, anything that you'd like to say to our organizers out there who have, had a really interesting, sometimes really wildly successful last couple of years, or maybe a tougher time depending on where they're living, and also, our personal situations with immunity and able to put ourselves in risky physical situations? What would you say, because you're such a wondrous positivity force, what would you say to the organizing productivity community?
Yeah, I would say to all of you, no matter what your situation is, and I've had so many things that have gone wrong in my life, some self-created, others, external. But no matter what, take a look at how you can create from there. As an example, my sister Pat passed away a few years ago, and I did a couple of things. Obviously, I organized her, but she also wanted to go away. She wanted to see if we could meet the Pope, right? And so part of my organizing became, how could I get my sister to see the Pope before she passed away? And not only did that happen, but we had tickets not only to the front of all of those 80,000 people at the Vatican in the square, but we were in the first row, and he came and shook her hand. So take that organizing and use it in every area that you can. And how do you also make it worthwhile to others? Like I made a difference in my sister's life and mine, for sure. And then I wrote a book on cancer and how to get organized inside of having a diagnosis of cancer. And that's free to everybody. I don't charge for it. It's just something that I did. So if anybody wants to see it, they can go to thecancerconcierge.org, right? Just take a look. All I did was that. But then it opened up more doors because I was starting to do shows on cancer and organizing and disease and health. And see, there it goes again. All I did was work with my circumstances.
You know what? And this footnote is stay generous. Stay in who you are. Use your skills to serve others. That's my definition of what success is. Anyway, because the more giving we do, the more we're receiving. And you role model that, you live that so beautifully, Dorothy. What a treat it has been to spend some time with you. You're infectious, your enthusiasm. It's absolutely contagious and contagious in a good way. We can have good contagions.
Oh, there you go. I didn't even think of that. I'm my own virus. Okay.
Yeah. Everybody needs a little bit of Dorothy. That's for sure.
Thanks,
That's
Claire.
for sure.
You too.
Okay. Well, thanks so much again for joining us. And for all you listeners out there, I told you this one's going to be a good one, didn't I? We had such a delightful conversation. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you took some gems away and perhaps a renewed, refreshed attitude to the way you show up in your business and a sense of opportunity. So as always, check out the other episodes at napopodcast.com. Let us know what you think. Let us know. I had so many connections with what Dorothy said today. Maybe you did too. Reach out on social media and share, tag Dorothy, tag NAPO, and continue the conversation out of this episode so we understand how it resonated with you. You can also let us know what you'd like to hear more of and drop a review if you feel so inclined. It's always good to know how you think and how we're serving you. So until the next episode, as always, be safe, stay kind, and enjoy your journey. So I knew I'd have more to talk about with you, and I'm happy to be back for our YouTube bonus question. And I know that the past couple of years have been tricky for everyone, but you've taken on additional challenges. And I wonder if you can talk a little bit about how you've had to rethink about how you invest your time to handle so many important things all at once.
Well, thank you, Claire. And you know what? You're right. We have more to talk about because you're so relatable. Like, I know for myself that being with you, you truly become a friend during these conversations. So I want to thank you for that. But in terms of what it was like over the last couple of years, I mean, everybody's had their own situation. I'm sure all of you have. Mm-hmm. For me, it's been caregiving for my mom. Mm-hmm. She's 88. She's a highly sensitive person. So am I. She requires a lot of attention.
This is maybe why we get along. I get you, girl.
But, I also was committed to continuing the Hoarder Show. So we were filming during a pandemic with shields, gloves, masks, and all of the being on the set, a closed set very carefully. And not infecting my mom and having to move her to assisted facility. And also, I love being with my husband, Marty. Love it. And we want to travel. And we did. Yeah. And then, starting more of a new aspect of my business. I already own 3 companies as it is. Mm-hmm. But now there's this whole other branch that came alive. So how did I manage it? You would think it would be to, add in more to do. But what occurred for me? The best way to manage it was, number 1, to prioritize my sleep and my meditation time, which is like so counterintuitive for Dorothy, the organizer, who was always a workaholic, and it's always there, and, a food addict. You could even say that because I used food to stay awake. So the only way that I could maintain my health was to get the sleep so I didn't eat the sugar, so I didn't overwork, so that I stayed in line and committed and kept in integrity with the stuff that I was doing. Does that make sense?
Oh, heck yes. Yes, because part of my journey through autoimmune issues and understanding what I need to do, I'm all about cultivating sustainable performance, becoming burnout proof. And it's all about understanding what your physiology, what your psychology, what your nervous system needs to take care of it so you can sustain your energy to give so you receive. This is all how it works, right? And Absolutely. Until we know what the choices we're making, how they affect us and how we might be self-sabotaging, until we can be really knowing what it is and have the deep self-love and honor to actually affect those changes, we can continue to spiral in the wrong direction. So I get you. The sleep and meditation, those are the top two things on my productivity table stakes. Number one is mindset, protecting how you think about your approach and spiral up instead of spiral down. And number two is sleep. So, I mean,
bada bing, bada boom, roommates.
Right? Oh my gosh. Absolutely. But such a profound and often, I love that you're bringing it up because it's often dismissed. Oh yeah, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Like that's the hustle culture, right? If you're going to do more, you got to be hungry and you got to take it on. No, we need to be able to continue to show up. And so how do you do that? You have to nurture.
Yeah. And I also see that there are patterns involved. I know my patterns. I want to bring a lot of energy to either the show that I'm doing or the seminar that I'm giving or the podcast in which I'm playing or dancing. So I know I need time off right after all those things. But I would fight it, man. See, look at this. I have been resisting all these things all these years. Partnership with people in organizing, fear of having my own voice, truly that true voice.
Yeah.
Fear of allowing myself to sleep when it's taking a nap when it's beautiful outside. No.
I nap on my bed in the afternoon when the sun's coming in on the bed. I'm like, be like a cat. Can I just show you? Okay, YouTube, this is for YouTube, right? So this is what's going on in my office. And they are like my biggest teachers. They're like, if you're tired, you rest. That's it. Right? So hello. Good. This is for those of you. Oh no, this is all YouTube. So you all got the treat. That's Elliot right there.
There we go.
Oh, and that's cat breath. No, thankfully you don't have that treat. Thank you for bringing this up. And I love that you brought up the high sensitivity too. And because this is such a passion project of mine right now, I just want to touch on that for a bit because I talk a lot about bringing this concept to the leadership world. Right now, we talk a lot about psychological safety. First of all, we need physiological safety, right? Mask, sanitizer, air filtration, all of the things to keep our environment safe for our bodies. Psychological safety, so we can bring our voice without fear of repercussion, recrimination, and so on. But the one that's been missing has been neurological safety. And so for highly sensitive people like you, me, and your mom, we need a non-open concept environment. We need some doors. We need some acoustic padding. We need some soft textures. We need some good smells. Thank you, Kat. We need our nervous systems to be catered to. And so, we talked about it. Dorothy's going to join me on my podcast. I'm really excited about that. So, we're going to explore this topic of high sensitivity. And I think I have done, some just anecdotal sort of hands up in the room whenever I'm giving a talk in the organizing community. How many of you out there are highly sensitive, do you think, after understanding this? About 1/3 or more of the hands go up. And so I think if you're listening out there, the sleep, the meditation, calming the mind, and then thinking about that rest and restoration through your day so you can supercharge, so you can show up like Dorothy on a podcast here, all beaming and delightful and full of energy. I often tell my coaching clients, I just had a nap before we spoke, right? I've like fluffed my hair and made the best I can of it. And then I'm here for you. So,
and see, this is why we can't stop talking because sometimes I have coaching clients where I'll ask them to take 15 minutes of, quiet time before our session so that we can create, right? So thank you. If you're watching, be sure to tune in for Claire's podcast, whatever it is on sensitivity, highly sensitive people.
It's called Happy Space. Called Happy Space podcast. You get HSP in there. It's a little subtle.
Well, then watch that.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I'm looking forward to when I can come back and we can get together and explore that whole concept a little further because we've all had our own journeys in that and all our journeys into coming up to today, how we choose to live. And I love what you've discovered and shared with us today. So deep thanks from me to you and for all of our listeners.
Thank you. And everybody, check your bedtime tonight. See if you can just get a few more minutes.
Right on. All right. Thanks, Dorothy. Take care of yourself.
Thank you, Claire. Okay.